The 2024 All-Star Game is right around the corner, and honestly, I'm a little upset with the way things have gone leading up to the All-Star Game. Don't get me wrong, I'm still going to watch it, but we should dig into some things and see how almost political the All-Star Game has kind of turned into. Let's get into it.
Well out to left. And no doubter. Toward the wall in right field. Adele is back. Christian Walker, formulate this. Onto the catwalk. Walker slams it deep to center. Christian Walker.
Welcome back to Touching Bases Podcast. Good to see your beautiful smiling baseball faces. It is July and we are almost to the midway point of the season. And honestly, I'm pretty excited to see this All-Star Game. I don't even know where I'll be during the All-Star Game, but I'm planning on watching it wherever I am. Now, it's obvious there's certain names that made it to the All-Star Game that makes complete sense. And then there's a few that have zero business being in the All-Star Game because of the shenanigans that they placed. Some of them Boris clients, so it just makes you hate the guy even more. And then the others, I mean, there's definitely better players that are in there that could have taken their spot. This year seemed more political. I'm going to dive deep into like my biggest issue with this, and that would be Pete Alonso. Now, after this whole thing went down, I now no longer want to see Pete Alonso sign with the Mariners. I will not like the Mariners as much as I normally do, and they're my home team. They're my favorite team, and they're the ones that I cover and look at the most. But Pete Alonso can stay the hell out of Seattle. I have nothing against him personally, but his antics and how he got himself into the All-Star Game, which I truly believe is what happened because it's way too much of a coincidence otherwise. On July 6th, the New York Post published an article that talked about Pete Alonso and interviewed him, asking, is he going to be joining the 2024 Home Run Derby? Now, that's a big question because he's known as like the Derby boy, the Derby man, the Home Run Derby dude, whatever. Now, he won the event in 2019 and in 21. Last year, he got eliminated, but, you know, it was no surprise. There were some pretty big bats that were in there, and I believe Vladimir Guerrero Jr. took it home while we were in Seattle. Now, when he was asked the question if he was going to join the Home Run Derby again, which I believe will be his 5th season in a row, which is the most anybody's ever done a consecutive Home Run Derby. Now, please keep in mind, when it comes to Home Run Derby, you don't have to be an all-star to be in the Home Run Derby. You just need to get invited and then say yes or no. So it's basically a popularity contest at that point, but you should probably give it to the respectable guys who've been hitting home runs the whole season. Pete Alonso decided to answer the question, are you going to participate? Quote, if I'm selected for the All-Star team, then I'm definitely open to doing it. It's a super fun event. Lo and behold, almost a week later, not even a week later, he's announced that he is going to be an All-Star, which means now he's going to be in the Home Run Derby. The man is ridiculous. He's only going to participate in the Home Run Derby if he's an all-star. Talk about forcing the hand of MLB. Now let's go back. The very beginning of this, and it's only been a couple weeks, they announced the first Home Run Derby contestant being Gunnar Henderson. And everybody's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. He's number 3. He has the 3rd most home runs in all of the game, so why not? That makes sense, right? That's what I would agree with. No problem. Next guy, Alec Baum. What? Now for Philly fans, Alec Baum, maybe that's a really cool thing. To be honest with you, I would have much rather saw Bryce Harper or Kyle Schwarber or Nick Castellanos or, wow, we're getting down the list. I'd rather see Brandon Marsh. I would rather see Trey Turner. There's a lot of guys on that list that I would probably rather see from the Phillies than Alec Baum. I mean, good for him. I guess he's a young guy and going in there and probably going to show off his stuff and he gets the opportunity. So I don't want to really take that away from him. But as far as the second announcement, it's got, I think, a lot of people scratching their heads as far as excitement goes. Now, if I go on the Fangraphs and I scan around and I look for, I don't see any. But I'm going down. I know he has 11. So there we go. Alec Baum has 11 home runs this season. He is slugging .479, not even over 500. And he was the 2nd selection for the Home Run Derby. He's number 92 out of the entire MLB. Okay, interesting choice, but we'll probably make up for it. How to choose a lower guy to make it bounce. We're going to bounce back and forth, aren't we? So who's next? Oh, Adolis Garcia. Let's just choose somebody from Texas. Now, as far as Adolis Garcia goes, I would typically stand on the side of saying absolutely not. Terrible season this year. Why is he going into the home run derby? He's not an all-star this year, as far as I can review, and as I pull up the rosters, he is not an all-star this year. So okay, I guess I understand that the all-star game is going to be in Texas, which is going to be where the home run derby is going to be hosted. So yeah, let's get somebody from Texas to do it. Now, with his performance this season, I wouldn't be too fully on board with this, but at the same time, I think I would absolutely give it to him, just given his performance in the postseason that led the Rangers to a World Series. Since he did that, of course, the World Series being after the last home run derby, he deserved a spot to at least entertain the fans and really give them a show and have the crowd have somebody to root for. Seattle last year had Julio Rodriguez, so why not? It makes complete sense. So Adolis Garcia, not a bad pick. The next few, because I don't want to make this video too long, you have Bobby Witt Jr., not exactly the power home run guy I'm looking for, but as far as a really good performing all-star player who does have power and can hit a home run, Bobby Witt is probably a good choice. I probably would have preferred to see Salvador Perez because he's a big boy and he definitely has some pop behind him and can knock the ball out of the park pretty easily. But Bobby Witt, bigger name, younger guy, even with Julio as they were rookies together, I'm kind of happy to see him there. Salvador Perez still did make the all-star game, he's just in the reserves. A big name I did not expect from MLB, and that would be Marcell Ozuna. Now, at the same time, I absolutely hate PR and I think it's absolutely stupid. Keep the stuff that happened at home out of baseball. Who cares what he did? If you guys think he's a bad guy, well, so be it. That's your choice, but it has nothing to do with his game and how good of a performer he is. You can root against him. That makes things a little bit more interesting. But he is on top of the leaderboards as far as home runs this season as number 4. He has 24 home runs this season and just behind Gunnar Henderson. The two guys that I wish were in the home run derby this year would be Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, but neither one of them, I guess, accepted the offer this season, which makes zero sense to me because Aaron Judge is 32 this year and he may possibly break his own record. So I'm happy to see Marcell Ozuna in there. He's definitely deserving of being in the home run derby, and he's deserving of being an all-star. If you guys aren't up to date as far as what happened with him, he was accused of domestic violence a couple years ago, and he did serve suspension, although the charges were completely dropped, and his wife, who's still his wife, has a prior history of domestic violence of her own. If you look at the body cam footage of exactly what happened, it was clear that he was trying to stop his wife from beating on him. He's a big dude, but his wife is obviously nuts and is willing to take him on. He didn't hit her, he didn't do anything crazy. It was a shove and to keep her away. I don't want to get into too many of the antics. The body cam footage is out there, you guys can watch it, but it's very cut and dry, and I feel like people who are accused of shit, they should really be deemed guilty and convicted if they actually did it, not just hate them because they're accused of something. That's not how this works. Jose Ramirez is back in it. He got knocked out last year, but he's gonna have a pretty good run. I can see either him or Josh Naylor going in for the Guardians, if not Stephen Kwan, but Stephen Kwan's in the All-Star game and he's been hitting for a really high average this year. In fact, he's leading the MLB, but I understand he's not exactly the power guy. Jose Ramirez, good choice. I like that. Teoscar Hernandez was the very last pick. Not exactly who I was expecting, but I think they were desperate to fill these spots. There's a lot of guys that they could have gone and chosen from, and Teoscar Hernandez is number 12 on the list of all the home run leaders. He has 19 currently, so he's showing a lot of power over there in LA. It's good for him. I'm glad that he was able to make it. Clearly, they were desperate. They weren't able to add anybody above him, which would have been Harper. Rafael Devers didn't go. Juan Soto was not showing up. Josh Naylor wasn't there. Anthony Santander is not there. And then, of course, Ohtani and Judge are not going either. So if we were to choose a home run derby and choose the guys with the most home runs this season in order based on their stats, well, Teoscar definitely would be in the top 15. So not a bad pick. Last but not least, I want to hit on Pete Alonso as he was selected and magically made it into the All-Star game. Whatever you want to take from that. My biggest issue is that this snubbed a specific player that I think deserved to be in the All-Star game. Looking over at the National League, the elected starters are going to be Bryce Harper, very deserving. Even though he's injured, I'm assuming he's coming back. If I were to go down to the reserves and I look at the infielders, there's a big problem here. I'm seeing Freddie Freeman, deserving. That would be one of the first basemen. And then I see Pete Alonso. That last first baseman spot should not be Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso comes 19th in home runs with 18 home runs this year. He's batting a 243 batting average and a 455. Last season was worse. Why is he in the All-Star game? Well, it makes sense that he's making those comments to the New York Post saying, if I'm in the All-Star game, I'll be in the Derby. And clearly from the selection of players for the home run derby, MLB was pretty desperate, so they decided to give it to him. If we could go all the way up to the very top, we can see number 7 literally more than 60% higher in the rankings as far as home runs go, with 22 home runs, batting a 261 and a 500 slugging percentage. His WRC plus is a 131 and a WAR of 2.7. Christian Walker should be in the All-Star game, and he should be in the home run derby. I don't care what you say. I don't care how much you love the polar bear. Christian Walker deserved to be an all-star this season, as he is the first baseman with the most home runs in all of MLB. Why is he not in the home run derby? Why is he not an all-star? Pete Alonso would be fine as going as a home run derby if Christian Walker didn't want to do it. Perfectly fine with that. No big deal. But why is Pete Alonso an all-star over Christian Walker? This makes absolutely zero sense. This is one of my biggest issues and why I say this got political. MLB basically said, what are we going to do to fill these spots for the home run derby? What do we do, everyone? Pete Alonso will do it if we give him a free spot that's not voted in by the fans and by other players and by other associations, and we can get him to fill a final spot to drag in as much money as we possibly can because he's Mr. Home Run Derby. If we take away a spot from someone who's way more deserving, let's do it. MLB should be ashamed of themselves and how they conducted themselves and how they made this happen. I don't know if Christian Walker maybe on the side said, no, I don't want to be an all-star. I'd rather just sit at home and take my break. But that to me is complete bullshit. And Pete Alonso, you should be ashamed of yourself by trying to strong-arm your way into an all-star game, which you didn't deserve to be in. That's the bottom line. You need to earn your way into the All-Star game, and it used to matter because back in the day, it would decide who would be the home team for the World Series the next year. So it held some weight. Now it doesn't, and now we're just, it doesn't matter who makes it. Let's just throw in whoever will bring us the most money. That's not what fans want. And if you really want to piss the fans off, you've done it, MLB. It's Pete Alonso, MLB, I'm officially pissed off at. And a lot of you guys are probably going to be screaming at me or mad at me who are New York Mets fans. But I have another point to get to. Christian Walker, you deserve to be an all-star. You deserve to be in the home run derby. MLB basically caved to another Boris client. And I hope owners take note of that going into the next offseason. Speaking of the offseason, let's get into the fact that the Mets are now going to be most likely re-signing Pete Alonso or trading him away by this deadline after the All-Star game, which this now gives him some chips because now teams are like, oh, we have an All-Star and a home run derby guy. Let's trade him for more. His value's gone up. Good job, Mets. That's a great idea. And I would assume if you're an owner or front office of a Major League Baseball team, you're not this naive, but you'd probably see that he just talked his way into getting into the All-Star game. He's not literally that good compared to other guys that are out there. Mets fans, my point would be you should be upset too. Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor are significantly better this year than Pete Alonso, and they are way more deserving. In my opinion, Brandon Nimmo should be in the All-Star game 100%. The other reserves for the National League is Teoscar Hernandez, Jackson Miro, Elliot Ramos, and Brian Reynolds. Now, I would probably say Brian Reynolds, Ramos, and Miro are 100% deserving of being in there. Teoscar Hernandez, not so much. He is up there when it comes to home runs, which I understand, but as far as overall round players, as far as his strikeouts go, as far as his slugging percentage goes, Brandon Nimmo deserves a spot on this All-Star team, and definitely well above Pete Alonso. Francisco Lindor woke up very much later in the season, but at the beginning of the season, he was hot as well. As far as infielders go, you're looking at Luis Arraez, Mookie Betts, Ellie De La Cruz, Freddie Freeman, and Ryan McMahon. I'd be cool with all of these, except for the fact that Mookie Betts is injured. So what is the point of having him fill that spot? Give it to Francisco Lindor. It makes zero sense the way they set this whole thing up. I don't care if he got the votes. You shouldn't be allowing people to be on the roster if they are injured and can't even play, we can recognize them. We can say he was all-star caliber or he was an extra guy you throw in there. 100% Francisco Lindor deserved to be in there, not Pete Alonso. As far as you Met fans are concerned, you can be mad at me as much as you want, but Pete Alonso does not deserve to be in the All-Star game, but two of your other guys absolutely did. On a side note and a happy note that I really want to look forward to, Paul Skenes made the All-Star game, and I believe he's the first round draft pick to be drafted and then brought up to the majors in the following year and make it to the All-Star game. So, hat off to you, Paul Skenes. Good job. You have done an amazing accomplishment, and I hope you do well. And I'm glad to see you are now officially throwing an ERA lower than 2. So look forward to your Cy Young Award win, as this is going to be an epic year for you. And I'm super excited to see you prosper through the rest of the season. And maybe, just maybe, the Pirates can fork up some cash, get you some really good bats, and you guys can go to a World Series. Tell me what you guys think down below in the comments. Am I just way too pissed off right now for my own good? Or do you agree with me? I would tell me right now. Am I out of my mind, or am I making a solid case here? If you're a Mets fan, are you just as livid, or are you just content because you at least have a Metropolitan that's playing for the All-Star game? I don't know. You guys tell me. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't. I love you all, and enjoy this All-Star game because it's going to be still fun with a little bit of hate on the side. Later.